Good evening, and welcome to the Dreary Midnight Podcast. My name is Lisa, my pronouns are she, they.
My name is Celeste, my pronouns is she, her.
And tonight we are revisiting Creepypastas.
Yes!
And so I think first Creepypasta episode was back in December of 2022. Very first dreary December. And that's where we touched on Slenderman, or I touched on Slenderman.
Yes, I remember that. Very creepy.
Yeah. And so today we're revisiting another creepypasta, one of the other kind of big names in the creepypasta universe. Mm-hmm. And this one is entitled Candle Cove. Let's get into it. Intro music.
Intro music.
So, for those of y'all who didn't listen to the first Creepypasta episode, first of all, how dare you?
Go back and listen to it.
Second of all, creepypastas are... The name creepypasta is extrapolated from the term copypasta, which is sort of copy and pasting. Like those emails that you would get from chain forward emails or...
I remember those. I hated those.
Yeah. Or
they always gave me anxiety.
Yeah. Even if it was, like, especially early creepypastas, I'm remembering this now, like, there's the forward this to 10 friends, or this creepy thing will show up at the end of your bed tonight.
That's why. I remember when email was, like, the main form of communication.
Yeah.
And I hated getting those.
Yeah. The more benign, not benign, but the not creepy copy pastas are things now, like I've seen a few elderly people on my Facebook page copy and paste about Facebook is about to update their terms and conditions. Copy and paste this to tell Facebook that you don't consent to information being shared.
Well, they still have the same like format on like TikTok and like stuff. So have you seen those TikToks that's like repost with this sound in order to claim good energy in like March or stuff like that, and if you don't, then you won't, you'll have a shit year.
Yeah, something like that. So those are copypastas, and creepypastas are the horror version of copypastas. So creepypastas were the ones that I was getting in 9th grade that says like send this to 10 friends or else I'll show up in your bed tonight or whatever.
Hated those.
Yeah. Same. But also I did in fact forward to 10 friends because I'm not risking that.
Yeah,
shit.
you were one of those 10, like you would have been one of those people that sent it to me and now I have to send it to someone else.
Yeah.
Do you ever like break the chain and then feel like nervous for the rest of the day?
I refuse to break the chain. Leave someone else for that nonsense.
I remember the first time I broke the chain, I was convinced I was going to die, but nope, I'm still here.
Yep. I mean, the anxious part of you, at least anxious about copypastas, I guess, died in 2010. But
no, now I'm anxious about actual life.
Yes.
Okay,
but
creepypastas.
So many times they can, at least in the narrative sense, there's often one point that can be traced back to, this is the first origin of this. So like with Slenderman, the first post about Slenderman was in a Photoshop contest in like 2007 or 2009. Go back and listen to that episode for the actual dates and the origins of that. And then it kind of extrapolated from there. Both sort of fictional and not. Similar with Candle Cove, which is the one we're going to be reading today. Yes. And Candle Cove is in what's called an epistolary style. So it's written... Originally, epistolary style is letters, right?
Okay.
But Candle Cove is written...
like blog type?
Forum posts. And according to the Creepypasta origin and development section of Candle Cove. Unlike most creepypastas that, by their very natures, evolved out of contributions of numerous posters, Candle Cove can be traced back to a single author who initially presented the entire story as a finished piece and later released the story commercially as part of a collection of short stories. The author is Chris Straub, who's also an illustrator, and posted the piece to Ichor Falls, which is a site for horror fiction, on March 15th of 2009.
That's fun.
Did not approve later versions and adaptations of his work, but the fiction has mutated into new forms nevertheless.
So it started off kind of like as a type of analog horror,
basically,
story book.
Yeah, because it's 2009, Reddit is not the only forum type of thing. It's the biggest now, but in 2009 there was easily a dozen, and so it was so easy, and especially in the 90s. Like in 2009 there's like couple dozen, but in the 90s there was even more, and yet there is a forum for everything, right? And so it was very easy to be like, oh yeah, the Net Nostalgia forum is probably a thing for somebody somewhere. Creepypasta.com goes on to say, what's interesting about this particular story is how meta it becomes when you consider that the story was inspired by the creepypasta genre as a whole, and that on its way to becoming a creepypasta itself, it successfully imitated the way that other creepypastas are formed.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, because so much of the development of creepypasta lore is forum users kind of working with each other and talking to each other in character about things. About whatever piece of media. That's if you're ever on the subreddit r/nosleep, everyone kind of talks about the narrative as though it was a true narrative that happened to somebody, and similar for the development of creepypastas.
Okay. I don't go on r/nosleep because I like to sleep.
Yes.
And that would keep me up at night.
Yeah. Part of the reason it did so well is because each of the like 3 or 4 users that's involved has their own distinct voice. So, without further ado, this is Candle Cove. Net Nostalgia Forum, Television, Local. Skyshell 033. Subject: Candle Cove Local Kids Show? ? Does anyone remember this kids show? It was called Candle Cove, and I must have been 6 or 7. I never found reference to it anywhere, so I think it was on a local station around 1971 or 72. I lived in Ironton at the time. I don't remember which station, but I do remember it was on at a weird time, like 4 o'clock p.m. Mike_Painter65. It seems really familiar to me. I grew up outside of Ashland and was 9 years old in 72. Candle Cove. Was it about pirates? I remember a pirate marionette at the mouth of a cave talking to a little girl. Skyshale. Yes, okay, I'm not crazy. I remember Pirate Percy. I was always kind of scared of him. He looked like he was built from parts of other dolls. Real low budget. His head was an old porcelain baby doll, looked like an antique that didn't belong on the body. I don't remember what station this was. I don't think it was WTSF though. Jaren_2005 says, sorry to resurrect this old thread, but I know exactly what show you mean, Skyshield. I think Candle Cove ran for only a couple months in 71, not 72. I was 12 and I watched it a few times with my brother. It was Channel 58, whatever station that was. My mom would let me switch to it after the news. Let me see what I remember. It took place in Candle Cove, and it was about a little girl who imagined herself to be friends with pirates. The pirate ship was called the Laughingstock, and Pirate Percy wasn't a very good pirate because he got scared too easily. And there was calliope music constantly playing. Don't remember the girl's name. Janice or Jade or something. Think it was Janice. And for those of y'all who don't know what calliope music is, think of those little sideshow organs that you find at like the boardwalk or the circus. I'll include a link in the description and see if I can do.
Do you think you'd be able to play a little clip, or would that be copyright?
If you don't hear little pipe organ music right now, I'll have a YouTube link below. Skyshale says, "Thank you, Jaren. Memories flooded back when you mentioned the laughing stock in Channel 58. I remember the bow of the ship was a wooden smiling face, with the lower jaw submerged. It looked like it was swallowing the sea, and it had that awful Ed Wynn voice and laugh. I especially remember how jarring it was when we switched from the wooden/plastic model to the foam puppet version of the head that talked." Mike says, "Haha, I remember now too. Do you remember this part, Skyshale? You have to go inside." Ugh, Mike, I got a chill reading that. Yes, I remember. That's what the ship always told Percy when there was a spooky place he had to go in, like a cave or a dark room where the treasure was. And the camera would push in on Laughingstock's face with each pause. You have to go inside. With his 2 eyes askew, and that flopping foam jaw, and the fishing line that opened and closed it. It looked just so cheap and awful. You guys remember the villain? He had a face that was just a handlebar mustache above really tall, narrow teeth. Kevin_Hart says, "I honestly thought the villain was Pirate Percy. I was about 5 when this show was on. Nightmare Fuel." Jaren_2005. "That wasn't the villain, the puppet with the mustache. That was the villain's sidekick, Horace Horrible. He had a monocle too, but it was on top of the mustache. I used to think that meant he had only one eye." But yeah, the villain was another marionette, the Skin Taker. I can't believe what they let us watch back then. Kevin_Hart says, "Jesus H. Christ, the Skin Taker. What kind of a kid's show were we watching? I seriously could not look at the screen when the Skin Taker showed up. He just descended out of nowhere on his strings, just a dirty skeleton wearing that brown top hat and cape, and his glass eyes that were too big for his skull. Christ almighty." Skyshale says, "Wasn't his top hat and cloak all sewn up crazily? Was that supposed to be children's skin?" Mike Painter, 65. "Yeah, I think so. I remember his mouth didn't open and close. His jaw just slid back and forth. I remember the little girl said, 'Why does your mouth move like that?' And the Skin Taker didn't look at the girl, but at the camera, and said, 'To grind your skin.'" Skyshale says, "I'm so relieved that other people remember this terrible show. I used to have this awful memory, a bad dream I had where the opening jingle ended, the show faded in from black, and all the characters were there, but the camera was just cutting to each of their faces, and they were just screaming, and the puppets and marionettes were flailing spastically, and just all screaming. The girl was just moaning and crying like she had been through hours of this. I woke up many times from that nightmare. I used to wet the bed when I had it." Kevin Hart says, "I don't think that was a dream. I remember that. I remember that was an episode." Skyshale says, No, not possible. There was no plot or anything. I mean, literally just standing in place crying and screaming for the whole show." Kevin replies, "Maybe I'm manufacturing the memory because you said that, but I swear to God I remember seeing what you described. They just screamed." Jaren2005 says, "Oh God, yes, little girl Janice, I remember seeing her shake, and the Skin Taker screaming through his gnashing teeth, his jaw careening so wildly I thought it would come off its wire hinges. I turned it off and it was the last time I watched. I ran to tell my brother and we didn't have the courage to turn it back on." Mike Painter 65 said, "I visited my mom today at the nursing home. I asked her about when I was little in the early 70s when I was 8 or 9, and if she remembered a kids show, Candle Cove. She said she was surprised I could remember that, and I asked why. And she said, 'Because I used to think it was so strange that you said, I'm gonna go watch Candle Cove now, Mom,' and then you would just tune the TV to static and just watch dead air for 30 minutes. You had a big imagination with your little pirate show." credit for the original narrative is for Chris Straub. And we'll also link to the Creepypasta. They also link to Anchor Falls, which is where it was originally posted, but it seems to be a dead link now. So,
well, holy shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I had heard of Cove, and I'd read that before.
Yeah.
But it was just like the flood of memories.
Published to Icar Falls on March 15th of 2009. So, contextually, these people who are talking about, like, do you remember this?
From the 70s?
From the 70s, saying they're between, like, 7 and 12 or 6 and 12, were likely born in or around 1960. So if it's 2009, they're approaching 50 right now, or in 2009. So,
which is why one of them's mom was in a retirement home.
Yes, a nursing home even.
Nursing home.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah.
Gee, I love the imagination of people.
Yes, but again, it's very much it's similar to Slender Man in that, like Slender Man, creepypastas are getting into folklore for the digital age.
Yeah.
And I think I said that in the original creepypasta episode too, but it's still true. Folklore for the digital age, because originally folklore is like, don't go to this body of water or to the creepy dark forest because Baba Yaga is there or whatever, and Baba Yaga is going to get you. And so with Slender Man, it's very sort of be aware of what's lurking around in the background of your photos, in the background of your life. Candle Cove is be wary what your children are watching.
Yeah. It's just fun to see how the lessons are still there, but they change shape just because of, like, what's prevalent in people's lives nowadays.
Yes, exactly. And again, this is posted 2009, and so sure, it's about people in their 50s talking about something that they watched as kids, but even then, it's sort of, they're on a forum, but nowadays, it's sort of be aware of what your kids are observing on the internet.
Because, like, you could say, oh, well, this was a show from the 70s that's weird and creepy and antiquated.
Yeah.
You know, how many people do you think will read this and then think about, like, wow, were there any weird childhood shows that I watched? Or, like, is there anything like this now, sort of thing, you know?
Yeah. Did you ever watch Roly Poly Oly?
Yes, I loved that show.
For a long time, I thought that was a fever dream.
I loved Roly Poly Oly.
But, like, that's what I mean.
But that wasn't a creepy show. That was just
show.
So,
and that's the lead-in, right? Because
yeah.
I a little bit thought Roly Poly Oly was a fever dream. Because it was early aughts CGI.
I have not heard anyone say that for a while.
But it's early aughts CGI, right? So, like, I can understand why, just, I don't know.
I'm sure if I go back and look at the characters, it's probably horrifying. Just because, like you said, it was early, not CGI. You know what was creepy? The freaking, what's it called? Miss something. She was like a spider. I forgot what it was. But, hold on, I'm going to look it up. See, now I feel like the Crystal Cove people, because I'm like, I can't even remember the name of the show.
Yeah.
I just remember it was, like, this show about a spider, and it was in, like, CGI.
Yeah.
I think I found it.
What?
Miss Spider's Sunny Patch Friends.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Here's the show.
Okay, yeah, I can see why that also would have a fever dream. But it's the same animation style
it's animation style. It's pretty uncanny.
Yeah.
And this was one of the characters, which gives me nightmares.
I think I've seen a meme of that before.
Right?
But yeah, I can absolutely see why.
Like, as a kid, that's unnerving. Or basically, like, if you see any Courage the Cowardly Dog episode, they go so into, like, Uncanny Valley and creepy nightmare fuel for children. Honestly, for adults, Courage the Cowardly Dog is a creepy-ass show. which I never actually grew up watching because I didn't have Cartoon Network.
I saw a singular episode of Courage the Cowardly Dog on vacation once, and I couldn't sleep for 2 nights.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, honestly, that show could probably have some of these Candle Cove
but that's why Candle Cove is so believable, right? Because it starts out, it's like, do you remember, like, way back in the recesses of your brain of this one particular thing?
And then you think, okay, this is a very questionable show to be showing children. And you think, what was going on with the show? Because it was like a puppeteering show, but there were obviously real life people in it. So it's like, was it some sort of weird, crime-ridden production? Yeah. And then there's the plot twist at the end where the mom is like,
it was just static.
Staring at static for 30 minutes, which... Yeah. If my kid was staring at static for 30 minutes, I would not let them do that.
Yeah. Because, like, what kind of... But then she said, oh, yeah, I thought you were just...
use your imagination.
Yeah, with your pirate show.
Like, what kind of freaking... What's it called? Poltergeist type, stuff is going on there. But, yeah. So then it makes you think maybe this is some sort of supernatural thing. It's a really good... little vignette, but you're right in that it is literally just modern day folk legends, which I think is what most creepypasta is, right?
Because the person was like an actual writer, they did a lot of they did very well with doing with creating the world around it, and rooting it in a lot of regular things,
and making the character voices very believable.
Yes,
and like, oh yeah, wasn't that weird? Or like, I'm pretty sure this was a dream. Sort of thing.
Like
nobody's going over here like, yeah, this was the 1972 production of blah blah blah. And you know, and it's not too outlandish where they're not like, and then I started hearing voices, and you know what I mean.
But like, and I think my brain corrected a couple of these, but they also made sure to include like a couple of extra exclamation points. There's form instead of from a couple of times. Like, it reads very much
like somebody typing.
Yeah.
Dang, that's good.
Yeah.
But do you have any theories as to what that show could have been in story?
As in, like, what it could have been about?
Or, like, do you have any theories as to, like, how it was it like a supernatural thing, do you think?
I was just goofing off just now, and apparently in universe there's a 1767 novel called The Knickerbocker's Tale, and that's upon which it is based. Knickerbocker's Tale is an in-universe thing. It's not like an actual IRL.
Damn it. I was gonna say we should read that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure Knickerbocker's Tale also had some sort of thing in universe. But anyway, with all that said,
that's fun.
Happy spring.
Oh yeah, what a way to kick off the springtime. Yes. Happy beginning of the busy season.
Yeah, so we'll be doing a lot of pre-records, so hopefully we'll be consistent with you. But with all that said, join us on the Patreon. We'll be doing, I think Tourism Tales episode 3 is up next week.
Woo!
And we'll probably be doing some more creepypasta stuff over there as well.
Which Tourism Tales is it?
It's the one with a lucky quarter.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I remember that one. That's a good one.
Yes,
you should watch it.
You should listen for sure.
Listen, that's what I meant. I mean, you can watch the screen as you're listening.
Yes, keep your eyeballs on the screen unless you're driving, and keep your eyes on the road. We do not want to cause a crash.
No, we don't.
And then at the higher tiers, you also get like a postcard club and some other cool stuff. So join us over on a Patreon.
Please do.
Patreon.com/drearymidnight. If you want to write in questions, comments, concerns, fears, hopes, dreams, other creepypastas you want us to cover, drearymidnightpodcast@gmail.com.
Email.
And
Instagram. I promise I'll update it.
And,
I'm so bad at that, but I'm
but
trying.
you're running around with tiny children, so it's fine.
I'm constantly running around with tiny, not my children, my students.
Yes. But Instagram.com/Dreary Midnight if you want to keep in touch with the show.
Dreary Midnight Pod.
Dreary Midnight Pod, yes.
Dreary Midnight Pod.
And
Instagram.
With all that said, don't let your kids watch Static.
In general, be wary of what your kids are watching.
Yeah, be aware. And
good life lesson.
Yeah, with their internet activity as well, now as well.
Honestly, that could be its own whole episode.
Yes, but safe travels home on this dreary midnights. Good nights.
Good night.